Whoever stays until the end will tell the story. We did what we could. Remember us. Remember us. We owe them more than remembrance. Nothing can explain that for 15 months Palestinians in Gaza have endured hell and been abandoned to this fate.
Another Israeli terrorist belonging to the terror outfit IDF has had to flee. This time, the country that the IDF terrorists fled from is Brazil. Remember how I told you about these terrorists fleeing Sri Lanka, Thailand, and then Cyprus last month? You can watch the video here. Now, thanks to another terrific job by the Hind Rajab Foundation, this unnamed IDF terrorist has had to flee Brazil in the middle of the night. And how he escaped an imminent arrest for his war crimes is comical. This will tell you how brave these terrorists are. Their bravery is only against unarmed and helpless Palestinians, and as long as they have the sophisticated weapons provided by the US, the UK, Canada, the EU, and Australia. This unnamed coward ended his holiday abruptly in Brazil in the middle of the night, immediately after the Brazilian High Court ordered an investigation into his war crimes in Gaza. So here's what happened. As you know, the Hind Rajab Foundation is set up in the memory of the 6-year-old Palestinian angel who Israeli terrorists had killed by firing more than 350 bullets. Yes, this is the true bravery of Israeli terrorists. They fired more than 350 bullets at a 6-year-old child, knowing that they enjoy global immunity thanks to the rogue regimes in the US, the UK, the EU, Canada, and Australia. So as soon as the Hind Rajab Foundation was alerted about the presence of this IDF terrorist enjoying holiday in Brazil with his family, the foundation's lawyers wasted no time in approaching the law enforcing agencies in the South American country. The top court in Brazil then agreed with the arguments presented by the Hind Rajab Foundation's lawyers, and citing Article 88 of the Brazilian Code of Criminal Procedure, it directed the federal police to urgently execute the investigative measures requested by the federal prosecutor. The Hind Rajab Foundation then urged the Brazilian authorities, especially the federal police, to act swiftly and not delay the execution of the investigative measures ordered by the top court, in compliance with the court's acknowledgement of the urgency of the case. That's because the foundation knew that any delay will see the suspect flee the country. And this is exactly what happened. Realizing this could lead to his arrest, the IDF terrorist did not even wait for the morning and left in the night, fleeing the country. Even Israel's foreign ministry swung into action and deployed all its resources to ensure this IDF terrorist escape from Brazil. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar ordered the ministry's consular section and the embassy in Brazil to contact the man and his family, who accompanied him throughout the event until his swift and safe escape from Brazil. The terrorist's father told an Israeli TV channel, and I quote, "I asked them to escape immediately and not stay even a moment longer." End of quote. Realizing that international opinion was fast turning against the IDF terrorists, despite the pro-Israeli propaganda unleashed by the likes of the BBC, CNN, the New York Times, and Guardian, and the list goes on, Israelis have now begun projecting these terrorists as victims. Classic Israeli playbook. They will always project themselves as victims even after committing the biggest Holocaust since the Second World War. In the case of this coward who fled Brazil, his parents have described him a victim who apparently survived the 7th of October attacks. Every criminal has survived the 7th of October attacks. And they think the world is as thick as themselves. This case is also hugely significant since it marks the first instance of a signatory state to the Rome Statute, directly enforcing its provisions without relying on the International Criminal Court. So in other words, they don't have to wait for International Criminal Court to decide that these people are terrorists and they should be arrested. The Hind Rajab Foundation chairman, Dayab Abu Jaja, he said, and I quote, "This is a historic moment. It sets a powerful precedent for nations to take bold action in holding perpetrators of war crimes accountable." End of quote. The genocidal regime of Israel has warned the IDF soldiers to not share the evidence of their barbarism on social media, since this could be used against them in international courts. That's their concern. The most moral army in the world is concerned that its terrorists are sharing the photos and videos of their genocidal mission on social media. It's okay to kill more than 200,000 innocent men, women, children, and babies and destroy their homes using American and British bombs, as long as they do not come to haunt them. A statement by the Israeli Foreign Ministry said, and I quote, "The Foreign Ministry draws the attention of Israelis to posts on social media about their military service and to the fact that anti-Israeli elements may exploit these posts to initiate futile legal proceedings against them." End of quote. So no remorse for the terrorist act in Gaza, but warning to terrorists to not share their diabolical acts on social media. This terrorist, who has just fled Brazil, was accused of planting explosives inside a series of homes in Gaza before detonating them. After the Hind Rajab Foundation identified this terrorist, several individuals whose homes were destroyed came forward and urged the foundation to initiate legal action against him. The global silence in the face of the ongoing genocide of Palestinians in Gaza is simply mind-boggling. The Palestinian representative at the UN last week summed it up brilliantly when he made this emotional speech.
Whoever stays until the end will tell the story. We did what we could. Remember us. Remember us. We owe them more than remembrance. Nothing can explain that for 15 months Palestinians in Gaza have endured hell and been abandoned to this fate. For those of you who think that this is a war against Hamas and not against the Palestinian people, a general, brigadier general, currently in the Israeli army, head of Division 252, there are no innocents in Gaza. Free game, every individual in the Gaza Strip, the Palestinian people. But his greatest insanity, in the words of one officer of the occupation army, and I quote, was the one about moving the Gazans southward and taking land, as much land as possible. End of quotation. It is a war against the Palestinian people. It is a war of genocide to eliminate as many as possible and to allow the situation in Gaza to be not inhabitable by any individual. They don't want Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and later on in other parts of the occupied territory. Evacuation orders and destruction of civilians' infrastructures, including hospitals, and killings and maiming of civilians, including doctors, have to be understood in this context. Either the Palestinians are displaced or they are destroyed. Mr. President, Dr. Hussam Abu Safiyyah stated a few weeks before this ultimate assault on the Kamal Udwan Hospital, and I quote, "I refuse to leave the hospital and sacrifice my patients. So the army punished me by killing my son. I saw him die at the entrance gate of the hospital. It was a great shock. I found a grave for him near one of the hospital's walls so that he could stay close to me." End of quotation. Dr. Abu Safiyyah was himself injured, and now he has been abducted, detained, his fate unknown. He refused to leave the victims behind. Can't we display some degree of that same courage?
Words fail me and those standing for justice for Palestinians in Gaza in the face of the Western countries' direct participation in this genocide. This is flipping 2025 and not the 1940s. Who would have thought that the Western civilization will proudly showcase the ugly and barbaric side in 2025? And the likes of the BBC, the New York Times, CNN, Guardian, and other Western media outlets will happily support this barbarism. On a lighter note, bloodthirsty terrorist Benjamin Netanyahu, who is currently wanted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity, had thanked a series of countries in 2021 for standing with Israel. Brazil was one of them. How ironic that the same Brazil has now become a reason for one of Netanyahu's terrorists to flee in the middle of the night to escape an imminent arrest. War criminals must expect more such embarrassment in the future. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism on buymeacoffee.com and Patreon. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.